It's the Ryan Hartson Show with Corey Bender on BWC Internet Radio. Kind of transitioning from a sport that I can't talk about, baseball, to a sport that I can talk about, the National Basketball Association. Do people call it the association?
I think it's just like
Is that like
NBA.
a nickname? Is that a nickname?
Sometimes people call it the association.
The association. It's like, really? I just started hearing that recently.
I just call it the NBA.
Me too, because it's what I do.
Go with the acronyms,
I like it.
man.
I think acronyms are very overused in this country.
True.
We use acronyms for absolutely everything when we really don't need to. You only need acronyms when there are too many things, too many words that you don't want to say them all the time.
Yeah.
That's why we say JMFPSP. I don't even like that one. That's too. We need a new name for that show. JMFPSP. The Jim Miller for President Sports Program. That's too long.
What would
That's
you
too
rename
long.
it to, though?
Tim and Ryan.
Just Tim and Ryan, man.
The Tim and Ryan Show.
Nice.
The Ryan and Tim Show. The something else show. Sports on YouTube
Show.
The show.
Yeah, the
I think
show.
that's been taken. I think that's been taken actually. The show. Yeah, it's the show on BWC Internet Radio. Yeah. Yeah, bro. Okay. So, briefly, let's just talk about the NBA All-Star Game.
Ooh.
Not really. Talk about the dunk contest.
Mhm.
It's Blake Griffin and
Some other people.
a few other people. Named highlighted by Brandon Jennings. The other people are highlighted by Brandon Jennings.
Yeah.
No one cares. I just want to watch Blake Griffin beat the crap.
Dominate.
He's gonna dominate this thing. Like, there's nobody even close that can take this guy. He's unbelievable. And arguably, his best dunk wasn't a dunk.
It was throwing it through the hoop.
He's coming off the left side, and he's jumping up, and from the torso up, he is completely above the rim.
Yeah.
And he's got the ball, and he's like a foot away from the rim, and he just throws it into the hoop. That to me, that's not a dunk. That's like a layup where half your body is above the rim.
Yeah, me too.
Just friggin' whips it in there. Pretty sweet.
It is.
But is that a dunk?
No, it's definitely not
No,
a dunk.
it's not a dunk. It's like a throw.
It's like a cool, like, looking
thrashing.
layup almost.
He dominated the rim. Just like
Without
thrashed.
touching it.
It's ridiculous. Not a dunk.
No.
But it's his best dunk, if that makes any sense.
No.
His best dunk was not a dunk. What?
Huh? What?
I got it. But if he does that little throw in the dunk contest tonight,
50.
yeah, it wouldn't count. They would just be like, no, that's not a dunk. DQ'd. They would DQ him. Could you imagine Blake Griffin getting DQ'd in this thing tonight?
I don't
You're
know.
too good, DQ.
You're just done for.
Because he's dominated everything in this so far. I don't see anyone even touching him in this thing. He's just going to completely...
Like the rookie game last night, I did not watch it, but he told me he just completely dominated. They
Right,
took
he
him
was
out
just
for the
like
rest of
taking
the
people
game.
over, and very early in the game, they just yank him. And John Wall goes in for 22 assists.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Starting off this All-Star festivities. The NBA has the best All-Star event of any sport. Baseball sucks.
Ugh.
The All-Star game takes 4.5 hours on average.
Pretty much. The Pro Bowl's a joke.
Oh, sorry, that's an average baseball game. It took 5.5 hours.
And then we had the Pro Bowl. That's just a joke.
And unbelievable.
It's just
the
guys in Hawaii
But
chilling.
at least the Pro Bowl is good for the players.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, the players are like, we get to go to Hawaii. How
Yeah, why
sick is
not?
that?
That's
You know,
a cool perk.
At the NBA All-Star Game, you get to go to a cool location like LA, which is where it is this year.
Yep.
And it's awesome for the fans because you've got the dunk contest, the three-point contest, you've got the actual All-Star Game, you've got the rookies versus second-year players game. It's a whole event within itself. And they call it, that it's at the midway point of the season. Like I said, I believe in the last segment, it's not. It's really we've really played like 2/3 of the NBA season.
Because there's 82 games in the season.
Right.
They've probably played about 50-ish.
50-ish games, right. So, and that's the thought, is that yes, it's halfway through, but the second half, you have to count the playoffs. And that's what we're going to do now. Pretty much everything that's been said about the All-Star Game doesn't need to be said again. It's awesome. Blake Griffin's going to dominate the dunk contest. And it's in Kobe's building, so I can't imagine Kobe not having a huge night.
Yeah.
And I can imagine some awesome dunks from LeBron as well. And that's really all that needs to be said about
Pretty
that.
much.
So let's transition. NBA, we'll do two things here. NBA mid-season report cards, as well as a playoff preview, which is pretty much we'll just go through the teams in the conferences, just talk about all the 8 teams that we think will be in the playoffs a little bit, and then we'll go skip all the rounds and go right to the conference finals, the 4 teams, which, in my opinion, the 4 teams have already been predetermined. We will get to that. But let's start with midseason report cards. Let's go through all 30 teams. Most of them suck. Most of them are going to get Fs. But let's do it. We'll start in the Eastern Conference. Boston.
A+.
The Celtics, by the way. Boston
A+.
Celtics. Yes, they get an A+. Great size, and they've been winning games like crazy. 40-14, 25-5 at home. That's interesting. And they just
have so much size that it's hard to contend with them too.
Only 6-4 in their last 10 though.
Ooh.
Which is irrelevant. Okay. Yeah. The Heat.
9-1. Ooh. Yeah, I'm gonna have to give them an A+ too.
Why?
Well, I mean, they do have all those great players in the big 3, but they can play defense. I mean, they're ridiculously good. Honestly, I wrote a paper in our school newspaper. I didn't predict them to go to the finals. I had them in the playoffs because, I mean, it'd be stupid to not put them in the playoffs.
Well, obviously they're going to make the playoffs.
But you know what? I'm starting to like them a lot more now. They should prove. The beginning, I'm like, yeah, they weren't doing so good, but you have to think eventually they're going to get on a hot streak, and they're second place in the East. They can't beat Boston, though, so I think they still get an A, though. You're
going to be shocked, because I've been Miami Heat's biggest advocator on this network.
Ever.
Since they were formed in July. B+.
Ooh.
Okay? Now here's why. We have 3 things at play here. We have expectations, we have perception, and we have reality. The expectations were that they could win 70 games and be the best team ever. That was out the window as soon as they lost to Boston night 1. Perception, these are 3 great players, and they're not having the success we expect them to, but they are having a ton of success.
They are.
41-15 is not bad.
No.
It's fantastic. They're second in the Eastern Conference, but they're not first. D. Wade has been awesome. LeBron's been awesome. Bosh has been really good. He has not been as good as he was in Toronto. It's starting to look like they overpaid for Chris Bosh a ton, making just as much money as LeBron and $2 or $3 million more than D. Wade.
Yeah.
I was looking at the salaries earlier this week for whatever reason, and it's just kind of shocking that D. Wade doesn't make more than Chris Bosh on his own team.
Wow.
And you consider, we thought they put a pretty good roster together to go along with them, with Mike Miller, the shooter, they did bring in some size. What's the guy's name that they brought in from Portland?
Yeah. No, not he's from Cleveland. Portland. It was
Portland.
I can't remember his name.
Let me go. I'll go to their roster.
Quickly. Did you honestly think they'd go win 70 games?
No. I thought they'd win 68.
I think that's mainly just Miami fans.
I was like, they're not going to win 70 games. They're going to win 60.
I think they're going to win 60. And I'd be shocked if they didn't.
They can make it, yeah. But, I mean, actually, they're really on pace. They have to go. They can only lose 7 games the rest of the year, I think.
Depending on their schedule, that could be a tough task.
Schedule, blah, blah, blah. Team. God, I hate this fucking website.
Roster.
I was on Miami Heat, the website, in school this week, and it pisses me off. Roster. I don't want all this crap. I want the fucking roster. Udonis Haslem, thank you. God, I hate when I can't remember crap. Udonis Haslem, he gets hurt, so all these injuries, and the perception is they were going to be the best team ever. And they're just clearly not.
No.
And everybody says Mario Chalmers, they don't have a point guard. Who cares?
Good. Just give LeBron the ball to be a point guard.
When people say, I've heard people say, well, the Heat, they don't have a point guard. You don't need a point guard.
Yeah,
you have D. Wade and LeBron. What part of Dwayne Wade and LeBron James do you not understand?
They can handle the ball all by themselves. You don't need a point guard.
You don't need a point guard.
You just get some rookie or just sign some free agent. I mean, not a terrible person, but if he's
Chris Quinn.
If he's a good role player and he can actually have a 3-point shot and he doesn't need to handle the ball, give it to LeBron. Just do it.
And then they would say, but you need a point guard to defend other point guards.
True.
And Dwayne Wade handle Derrick Rose? Don't even think about it. Yes.
Yeah, it's true.
He can handle him just fine, and LeBron can get out of Derrick Rose's way and score if D. Wade's having a hard time with that. Miami would have problems with the Bulls. But it would just be like a 6-game series thing where I think the Heat could take care of the Bulls pretty easily. And I've heard people disagree with me when I've said that, but B+, just because they're not as good as we thought they'd be, but they're still great.
Yeah.
And when they're in the playoffs and they have to beat Boston when it counts, they can take them.
Yeah.
They can take them. They just have to learn to play together a little bit more, which I think they will.
They just got to
B+,
get over the hump.
and it could be an A by the time they play all 82.
Yep.
Chicago, A+.
I'm going to give them an A+ too.
Derrick Rose is the MVP of the league, maybe. Behind LeBron and Durant could still win it.
I feel like Rose could probably win the MVP because he's a very good player, but he's elevated that team so much. He pretty much is that team, besides some good people like Boozer. But what else do they have?
A. Orlando, B-.
Yeah,
we thought they'd be better.
Too.
They tore the entire team apart, and that's that. Atlanta, C+.
I'll give them a C-.
New York, A. New York gets an A because they were god-awful the year before.
Last year. I didn't think they'd be this good.
And Amari Stoudemire put them together. Now, they're only 2 games over 500. They're 28 and 26 at the break.
Even with Amari,
but they are so much better than I thought they'd be. They're the 6th seed in the conference. Philadelphia, they're in the playoffs, so you got to at least give them a C. The Pacers are the 8th seed. They're in the playoffs. Danny Granger, good for you. Get a B.
Yeah, I'll give them B.
And everybody else gets an F. And Charlotte gets an F- because Michael Jordan, I love Michael Jordan. I think he's the greatest basketball player ever, but he is the shittiest general manager in world history.
He doesn't know how to draft very good. He's terrible.
He picked all the great but the Bobcats were in the playoffs last year, and all the good players in the playoff run, he got rid of them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're terrible this year. They're 24 and 32. Let me just go through this quickly for you. Milwaukee, F. Detroit, F. New Jersey, F. Washington, D+ because of John Wall.
Yep.
Toronto, F, and Cleveland,
There
is no grade to describe how god-awful the Cleveland Cavaliers are.
It's just ridiculous.
Okay, briefly, let's go to the West. San Antonio, A+. Popovich gets them ready to play. They've only lost 10 games this year.
Dallas,
their most recent loss was to Derrick Rose, dropped 42 points on him. Congratulations. Dallas gets an A. LA gets a C.
Yeah,
Lakers get a C because I thought they were going to win 65 games, and they're really only going to win they might not even win 60 games.
They'll win 55.
They are going to get hot at the end though, because they always do. Everybody gets hot. The great teams get hot right before the playoffs.
Oklahoma City Thunder, I give them an A+.
A+. They've, considering where they were at the beginning of the season, I did think they were going to be this good. I picked them to be in the finals.
All you can say is Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant.
Yeah. Portland gets a B.
Yeah, I'd give them a C+.
New Orleans, they got healthy and they got better. That you get a B+ for that.
B+.
Chris Paul, beast. Denver gets an F.
I'm gonna give them a D.
I thought they'd be better, but this whole Carmelo Anthony thing has fucked them over.
Yep.
And they're just like, you know what? Nah.
Utah gets an F in my mind because they're probably gonna lose Darren Williams next year. They lost Jerry Sloan.
Yeah, they're cooked.
They get an F.
Memphis is awful, but they are better than I thought they'd be.
You know, I think a D would be fine.
The Memphis Grizzlies get a D. Phoenix gets an F. They should have been better.
Golden
Steve Nash, come on now. Golden
State, I'm going to be nice to them. I'm going to give them like a D because they still have Steph Curry, who's young and developing.
I forgot the Golden State Warriors even existed. For that, they get an F. The Rockets suck. F. Clippers get an A.
Just because of Blake Griffin.
Because of Blake Griffin. They get an A.
Sacramento gets an F.
F. And Minnesota gets a D. I don't know
Kevin
why.
Love.
Okay.
You know what?
Yeah, I forgot about Kevin Love.
C.
Yeah, get a D.
I'm going to give him a C. I love Kevin Love.
Okay, there you go. And that's the NBA. That's where we kind of see them, your NBA mid-season report cards. Hope you enjoyed that. Now we'll just go through the playoffs a little bit. We're having some fun with this. So we'll go through the playoff teams, and we'll talk about that. We'll discuss it ad nauseum in the next segment with Corey Bender. It is Ryan Hartson on BWC Internet Radio.